So it's
Boop, boop,
been a
boop, boop, boop.
while. Several, I would say years, since I've recorded a video. And I recognize that I've probably been away for way too long. But I am trying to get back out into the world, not just as a content creator, but also I myself. I've made friends, I've lost friends, but I'm happy with the friends that I have now. So, even though it's not like, well, even though it says rainbow color official, I highly doubt that the person in question has permission to use certain assets. But regardless, I have had some fun playing this, even though obbies drive me up a wall. Even when I did my Minecraft videos, I am still planning on continuing that. Just, it's taking a while to make the map. Way longer than I originally thought. So, to get myself back into the habit of being less nervous on, what do you call it, camera? Evil Slayer?
Me. I don't know.
Also, yes, Evil Slayer is here.
Hello, people of the internet. The Evil Slayer is here hijacking.
He'll be reading a friend's old fan fiction while I do this. Hopefully
Yep.
that will help me, because I've played this before. I've finished it before.
Hmm.
With encouragement from someone else who is a good friend of mine, Mega Sponge. Check out his channel. I am
And
subscribed to him.
check out mine if you have the time.
Hmm. If I could figure out how, I will link them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, look for Evil Slayer's WWE stuff that he's made.
And follow my proper and check out my proper Doom 3D make stuff.
Mhm. I attempted to help a little bit with that, though with everything that has gone on as of late, well, it put it simply, it was chaos.
Hmm.
I will not go into details because personal stuff is personal, and I'm pretty sure none of you want to hear that.
Yep.
You're here for more lighthearted reasons.
Hmm.
So, without further ado, let's get into this hobby that is a pain in my butt.
Right. All right.
Oh yeah, I forgot to give it a like. There we go.
All right.
Speaking of likes, Don't forget to like the video
Yeah, basically,
if you like it.
follow, and obey.
So don't mind that. There we go. That's me in the background, by the way.
That's
That little bit.
corner. Losing my religion.
So one of the things that I'm mildly disappointed about is that the whole shifting and morphing to the different tunes, the other tunes don't work in the map.
Right.
So I won't be able to be morphed into one of my favorite or anything like that.
Right, so I'm
If
just
the
gonna
map creator sees this, they'll fix that, please. That was one of the few things I was looking forward to at that time. Of being able
Right.
to play as the tunes and do stuff as them.
So
But they do
you're
have some interesting ways of having it.
Hmm.
Like they have first person stuff, which I really like. I like the first person stuff. Ah. Also, don't mind the fact that it's a little bit loud for the music. uh, hey guys, play. I will go on first person mode because, well, first person.
So
Easy.
I'm assuming you're starting to play the game and such.
Yep, I'm in it right now.
All right.
You can
All right.
watch me deal with chaos.
Right. But anyway,
Allows
now that
is
you're in game,
like really pink.
all right. But either way, time for me to read the fanfic. Which, if you for some reason are watching this, I am so sorry, but it's content. All right. The Raven of his time. Prologue. The attack came from nowhere. It was like he was a ghost in the shadows. So fast, so powerful, unstoppable. Curtis has been through many hardships in the past few months, but none were like this. Having to fight the #1 Raven was not an easy task, and being forced into a fight was a completely different story altogether. First the leg took the damage, then the back, the right arm, and finally his torso. His AC was taking so much damage so fast that Curtis couldn't tell where his opponents or how many opponents there were. Then the Raider took a direct hit and the screen went blank. Curtis killed the Radar, and it wasn't helping. His enemy was just too fast. He has to concentrate. He stopped firing in all directions and focused. He tried to hear where his enemy was and finally get to the bead. He fired his machine gun, and Nineball took every bullet head on. He finally came out of the shadows and said, "Impressive. I did not think you'll be able to hit me, especially at your level of skill. However, playtime is over. Let's see what you can really do." Chapter 1. In the year 2197, there was a war among nations known as the Great Destruction. This war was so devastating that it drove mankind underground as mankind found the surface no longer habitable. 50 years later, a group of rogue mercenaries known as the Ravens are formed by a man called Hustler 1. The Ravens are mercenaries who take on any mission for the right price and pledge allegiance to no one. They take on these missions with the latest machines of war, the Armored Core Unit. When Hustler 1 was around 35 years old, he received a mission from an unknown client with an odd request. Request? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Upon advance, 0. Upon success, 40,000. We would like you to execute an attack on a rebellion on Avalon Hill. The targets are battle MTs. All you have to do is destroy all MTs that are guarding the sector, and we will pay you well. Sorry, but nobody else is available. Threat of operations. Location: Avalon Hill. Enemy forces. MTs. Unknown number. Requirement for success. Destroy all enemy forces. End of file. Unnaturally, he accepted the mission. The night before, the night around midnight, he arrived at Avalon Hill and started the battle with an explosion. The guards, MTs rushed over to see what's happening, but before they could even see him, Hustler 1 brought down their MTs with ease. The battle lasted for only 2 minutes until there was only one MT left. Hustler 1 shot it down, fell on a house next to it and exploded. Before he left, he saw a boy climbing out from under the wreckage. When the boy saw the massive AC, he
Huh.
ducked right back
Didn't see
under the
that
rubble.
before.
Little
The
did the two
hat.
know of them.
Anyways.
Little did the two of them know they would play a major role in each other's lives. Chapter 2. Young Curtis Trent awoke in his room. For the past 10 years, he lived with his Uncle John. Ever since his parents died from the attack 10 years ago, Uncle John had taken him in since he was the only known family Curtis had. He woke up, took a shower, got dressed, and went downstairs for breakfast. Uncle John was a really good cook and had served up pancakes, sausages, and bagels. After breakfast, Curtis went into his workroom, followed by Uncle John. His workroom is where they always talked about things. Uncle John, Curtis said. Yes, replied Uncle John. Do you know what day it is? Uncle John hesitated for a moment. Of course I do. It's the 23rd. Curtis had a depressed look on his face. And you know that's never ever a good day. Even his childhood friend Alexis couldn't get him out of his house. For the rest of the day, Curtis did his usual thing, working and repairing his old guns. Curtis was a good mechanic and could fix many things. He had also remembered the 2 clues he had about the killer, a red-black AC and an emblem of a 9-ball. The night Curtis awoke to an explosion, and when he heard it, it was almost as if the nightmare spirits dating back 10 years ago, which seemed like forever, were swarming all over again. He quickly grabbed an M16 and a grenade and raced out the door, not even listening to his uncle calling him back. Wait, Curtis, it's too dangerous! The explosion came from the house where Alexis lived, and he knew she was in grave danger. When he got there, he saw a giant figure in the flames and a small section of the house destroyed. You pricks picked the wrong place to attack, because now you have to deal with me. Curtis opened fire with the M16, only to have bullets ricochet right off the giant mysterious figure. He then cocked a grenade into this M16's grenade launcher, aimed, and fired. It hit a figure right in its head and exploded. However, when the smoke clears, Curtis saw that it was completely undamaged. The figure aimed at what seemed to be a gun and fired, not at Curtis, but at the propane barrels near him. The explosion threw Curtis 15 feet into a telephone pole, and he blacked out. When Curtis woke up, he saw that he was in his room again, and that Uncle John was sitting across from his bed, asleep. Curtis woke up Uncle John, and he saw Curtis. When he saw Curtis, he nearly jumped out of his chair. Curtis! He gasped. Are you okay? You scared me last night. Curtis backed away a little and said, Slow down, Uncle John. I'm all right. Uncle John sighed in relief. Curtis then immediately remembered what happened last night and almost screamed, Uncle John, where's Alexis? Uncle John showed a deep sigh and sadness and said, I'm sorry, Curtis, but she's missing. A swarm of emotions of all types swarmed over Curtis. He couldn't believe what just happened. His friend, who he had known for 11 years, was missing. Probably dead too. Curtis was so overwhelmed that he blacked out again. The night when he came downstairs, Uncle John was waiting for him. Curtis, I have made a decision. Curtis looked at him and said, What is it? Uncle John gave a look of goodbye forever and said, I have decided to let you go look for Alexis. Curtis couldn't help but saying, Uncle John, you do realize that we may never cross paths ever again. I don't even know what's out there. Uncle John didn't say a word and handed him a backpack with all the things he needed. He then handed him a pendant and said, This was your father's, Curtis. Take good care of it. The 2 men gave each other a firm handshake. Curtis took one last look around, went out the door, and turned back to say, Thank you, Uncle John, for taking care of me all those years. Without you, that dark night, I might not be alive. Uncle John smiled and said, "Just take good care of yourself, Curtis, and don't forget me." Curtis turned around and revealed a Harley Davidson motorcycle, started up the engine, and speed off past the gate. Shortly after, Curtis began his journey. There was a big bright flash as Curtis blacked out, never to see the region again. Chapter 3. When Curtis woke up, the room was dim. As he slowly awakened, he saw he was in a recovery bed. He saw that there were dozens of recovery beds, and that he was the only one in bed. Then a big man stepped into the room and approached Curtis. "Well, I see you are awake," said the big man with almost no accent. Curtis sat up a little and said, "Where am I?" The man gave a look as he was not going to believe what he had to tell him, and said, "You are in a place called the Raven's Nest, where the ravens take shelter." The Curtis sat all the way up. "You mean the legendary ravens?" The man looked at him blankly and said, "Yes, son. You have been selected for a test with an armored core unit provided, and if you pass, you are a raven." Curtis looked shocked. It's not every day you get an opportunity like this. The man walked to the door and said, "Come on, we don't have all day. Let me show you what you need to know." Curtis climbed out of bed and followed the man through the halls. The place was enormous, containing dozens of rooms and hallways. Meanwhile, Curtis was listening to the man saying, "This is the dorm room area where all the ravens sleep, and the cafe down the hall to the right. Now come, because we must get into your mech pilot suit quickly, because the test is in 5 minutes." Curtis was led to an area with these black pilot suits. As he got dressed into one that fit him, he was led to a garage that held a huge armored core for him. The mech was huge, roughly 50 to 100 feet tall, and it looked like it was ready to start the great destruction all over again. He climbed into it, strapped himself in, and initiated the launch sequence. Curtis somehow instinctively knew how to use it, as it somehow connected with him. He started up and walked into a platform. The platform was an elevator, which raised him to a huge blast, and the door opened. He piloted his mech out into a massive arena, which 2 other mechs that were smaller and weaker than his were standing at the opposite end. A voice came on and said, "Are you ready?" Curtis replied, "Yes, I am." The voice came on and said, "If you survive this, you will become a raven. But if you fail, you die." Curtis activated the weapon system and looked at them. The mech was equipped with a 7.62 millimeter machine gun, a 6-shot missile launcher, and a heavy advanced 50 cal grenade launcher. Test begins now. The 2 MDs boosted off as Curtis did the same. The 2 MDs in unison fired, hitting his mech right in the core. Curtis, on the other hand, fought back with swift boots. He came right up and over the enemy, boosted and pulled the trigger. At that moment, bullets seemed to come down like rain as the MD's top blew up and burst into flames. The second MD tried to maneuver and did manage to get a direct hit on Curtis, who was out of options, and resorted to final measures. He locked on to the 6 critical points up on the enemy's mech, fired the missiles, and blew the last MD to pieces. The operator came on and said, "The test is over. From that moment, you are a raven." Curtis had became a raven. Before he powered his mech down, he thought he saw a figure in the shadows watching him. Chapter 4. 2 weeks had passed since the test, when Curtis had received his first email for the job. He was no closer to finding the Lexus or the mysterious figure with the 9-ball symbol. He needed more time, but his clients could not wait forever. So he began reading the email that was from a client called Chrome. It was an odd request, but perfectly suited for a so-called rookie. Request: Chrome. Upon advanced, 0. Upon success, 13,000. We would like you to end a standoff from workers whose factory was scheduled to be closed in the near future. They have modified their MTs for combat and have taken control of the complex. All we are asking you to do is to go in and teach them a good lesson in manners. Normally we would deal with it, but currently we could not spare any of our troops. So if you would be so kind as to accept this contract, we will be grateful to pay you as well. Threat of operations. Location, closed factory. Enemy forces, 12 worker MTs. Requirement for success. Destruction of all enemy forces. End of file. Two of the worker MTs were waiting behind pillars just as Curtis entered the factory with his AC unit. They came out of cover and fired their weak weapons that didn't even phase the heavy armor. Curtis aimed his mech's machine gun at the closest MT and fired. Rounds tore through the MT's weak armor and the pilot splattering of blood all over the cockpit. Just then, MT hit the floor with a thud. The other MT tried to run, but Curtis locked into its head and fired a missile, blowing the top off and shattering it into a million pieces. Not far from the location of the front door,
This
a
is
worker
really
MT
violent
heard.
for a fanfic.
Well, I mean, after all, the fucking fanfic it's based off is a bit, all a bit action oriented. So don't blame him, okay? Not far from the location of the front door, a worker MT heard all the gunfire and sent a message to the other MT saying, "All units be alert. We have an intruder. Prepare to engage enemy on sight." He didn't live long after that because 2 seconds after he sent the message, bullets swarmed through the air, came through and hit the cockpit directly, shredding the MT and killing the pilot. Too easy, Curtis thought as he moved deeper into the factory. Just then, a larger, much stronger MT came running up the aisle. It locked into the AC and fired a high pulse laser. The projectile hit Curtis's AC right in the core, almost breaching the weaker armor. Curtis fired 3 missiles at the MT, blowing both its arms off and making a huge hole at the center. "Damn it," Curtis said. "I have to be more careful next time." The battles raged on for 30 minutes before he came to the leader of the standoff, which was also the last enemy. Before the fight, the leader came on the radio and said, "I won't be destroyed. I will kill you." His combat MT fired a high pulse laser at Curtis's AC. His mech dodged the attack, transformed into a grenade launcher position and fired a high-powered grenade, completely incinerating the hostile and ending the employee standoff. Shortly after, a guard's MT came through and secured the factory. A fellow Raven was waiting for Curtis when he exited the factory. "Well, I see you made quite a mess." Curtis took a look at his AC and saw it had tank-type legs of some sort. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Fenrir," he replied. "Not bad for a Wookiee." Curtis grunted to himself and replied, "Can you do any better?" There was no response to Fenrir. He turned around and strode away into the darkness. Chapter 5. Curtis had wondered why the so-called Fenrir was waiting for him outside the factory just to rub in the fact that he was a mere Wookiee. The night when he got back to the Raven's Nest, he checked his emails and found several. One from a man called R, one from Fenrir, and one from which there was no sender. He quickly read through R's email and got to Fenrir's email. It said that he had monitored his progress in the first mission, and when his skills had improved, he would love to go one-on-one with him. Curtis replied saying he couldn't wait for that day to come. Then he checked the unknown email and stated, "Stay out of my way, or he would end up like the others who fought back." It was a very weird message, and Curtis wasn't so sure if he wanted to be a Raven anymore. However, the terms of the deal were that you are a Raven until the day you die. Curtis was also worried that he would never see Alexis again and feared that he might as well accept the fact that she was dead. However, he brushed that thought aside for now. There was another mission involving a new terrorist group who had taken over the stone bridge at Avalon Valley. It had appeared that the terrorists were denied negotiations and had modified the MTs for combat as usual. Without hesitation, he accepted the mission. The night around midnight, he came across a barricade leading to the bridge. There were 3 armored military trucks, each equipped with dual missile launchers. None of the drivers sent a message to him through the radio, so he moved forward. But just as he did, a pulse laser shot rang out into the air, barely missing his AC's head by a meter. Curtis quickly boosted behind the concrete barricade as more shots rang through the air. He readied the missile launcher, came slightly out of cover, and locked into the MC's head. The missile was a direct hit, disabling the mech and not killing the pilot. The other MT managed to get a few shots off, but Curtis boosted directly to him and tore into him with his mech's machine gun. He's ready to take the 2 enemies of the other side of the barricade. Curtis backed up, aimed his grenade launcher at an angle, and fired it so the projectile came up and fell down at the hostage. There was a massive explosion that shook Curtis to the bones when he boosted up the keyboard as well. All he saw was a smoldering crater deep in the bridge. 15 minutes passed until the ringleader known as Phantom was killed. Chapter 7. Curtis was improving as a raven, and could tell because of the rank he had. And by the way, no joke, there is literally no chapter 6. It just skips from chapter 5 to chapter 7, so no chapter 6. But anyway, Curtis was improving as a raven and could tell because of the rank he had. He was ranked number 8 at the top of the Ravens list, and had managed to get there a month ago. He didn't have a whole lot of experience, but he got the job done well. The description said, a young raven that is not noted nor flash, but getting the job done reliably. His future looks promising. Curtis knew that he was on his way to the top, but it would be very hard to get the number 1 position. The mysterious raven known as Hustler 1 was at the very top and was never seen, almost never heard, and rarely accepted missions. To get to the top, would have to either beat him and all the others standing in his way, or achieve more points than him. That night, Curtis has gotten a mission from a client called Murakumo Millennium. It stated that they wanted him to execute an attack on a chrome gun emplacement near the Avalon Valley, and that their activity there was not good for their reputation. The reward, however, was not cash, but an AC pod. It was a picture of really fast humanoid legs worth around 44,000 credit. Curtis knew that this was a good way to boost his budget, considering not only a small amount of money, but the extra reward that stated he would be given extra credit for every defensive aircraft backing up the gun emplacement. At the gun emplacement, a man in an MT sighed deeply. He hadn't seen any action in days and was very eager to fight. He was just about to fall asleep when all of a sudden an alarm rang. He started the engine and lifted it into the air along with the 2 other MTs. The dropship accelerated to the combat zone. The operator came to a dead stop and said to Curtis, "We have arrived at the combat area. We'll leave as soon as your AC is deployed." The dropship released the AC into the shadow wall water and flew off. Curtis activated his systems and the AC was ready for combat. He saw 3 MTs fly toward him and locked onto each one with a missile. 3 missiles fired and hit, sending 3 flaming wrecks crashing into the shallow waters. 2 more came at him from behind, and he turned around and fired his machine gun. Armor-piercing rounds easily penetrated the light armor and sent the flying MTs crashing into the water to join their 3 other comrades. Curtis boosted his AC over to the short wall and spotted a gun emplacement. For a moment, they didn't look too spooky, until one of them opened fire at him and got a direct core hit. "Holy shit!" Curtis yelled as he boosted his mech back over the wall with guns still firing. The high-powered pulse lasers they fired had weakened the damaged section's armor down to a mere 20 centimeters. "Damn it," Curtis said. "I have to be more careful from now on." "No shit." Curtis had always hated the fact that he kept taking hits when he could have dodged them. It was a sign of carelessness, and Curtis absolutely despised that trait. He boosted back over the wall and at the guns until he was in close firing range for the machine gun. He fired 100 rounds into the left gun. It took all those rounds to penetrate the thick armor to destroy the automated gun. He then fired 6 missiles at the gun in back of it and left nothing but a smoldering wreck where the gun had once been. The other 2 guns fired, and he ducked behind a building as half of it blew up due to the immense firepower of the guns. Curtis wanted to try a new tactic for destroying them, but it was risky and could get him killed. He sent down the AC's machine gun, said his prayers, boosted out of the right rear, and boosted at the right rear machine gun. His mech's hands grabbed the turret and turned it just as it fired. The other guns fired at the same time. At the 4 pulse lasers missed each other, only by only an inch. Curtis boosted away just in time to see both guns kill each other as their shots collided with one another, turning the 2 remaining guns into scrap metal. His mech picked up his machine gun and boosted away from the battle zone. On his way back to the nest, Curtis took a deep breath and said, that was one hell of a tough one. Chapter 8. It was 6 a.m. in the morning, and Curtis, being unable to sleep, started to think about all the events that had happened on the plane searched for electric. He remembered his test for becoming a raven before the forces came back to him. What the hell am I doing? He wondered why he was forced to serve, or why he was into all this great mission. Curtis wondered if all these missions were set up specifically for him, and wondered that he was set up for the after all, everything happens for a reason, no matter what it is. Just in look, into a long business, he then heard a knock on the door. Come in, he said. Just then, a man came. He had dark skin, a black hairstyle, and wore a uniform with an insignia of the top 3 years. Hello, Curtis. I've been monitoring your battles so far. Come down here to suggest that maybe we can have some fun in the arena sometime. Curtis then said, who the hell are you and why have you come down here just to tell me that? The man looked puzzled, but then said, don't you remember me? I was at the factory in your first mission when you cleared out those rebels. Curtis then had a look of both disgust and curiosity in him, and then said, Fenrir? And just like that, a portal opens, the rabbits invade, and took down everything, and as the rabbits took over the world and make it their kingdom for their new rabbit queen, Evelyn. The end. And I had to make it up because it literally just ends when he said Fenrir, so I had to, improvisation. And that was the end of the acquaintances chapter. I hope he doesn't kill me for this.
Meanwhile,
but either way,
this thing is a pain in my rear. I'll need some encouragement.
You could do it. You could be in a worse situation as I am in.
Up I go.
How far are you into the obby?
This is the last part.
Ah, good.
Up this, and it should be done.
Alright.
And the helicopter. I spent way more time last time than I did this time.
Damn.
And this is the end of the thing in question.
Yay.
There's prisoner cells. I'm not going over there. And the exit. low gravity, super jump, super speed, Doom Sky? Okay, since you're here. Oh, that's pretty. Very pretty. Whoever made this part specifically. Oh, that's why it's called Doom Sky. That's the moon, and that's the sun behind there. Look at that. That's interesting. That's pretty. Nothing over there. Okay. And then back to here. And this is what's over here. This is chaos. With own type. In any case. Yeah, this is the end of the obby in question.
Nice.
And I got moved over there. That commonly happens with that game. Well, not really game, but the obby. And as a palate cleanser, I'll go into Dandy's World and do a run during the Halloween event.
Right.
Because obbies are a pain in the butt to me. Far less timing needed.